Hello everyone, welcome to the Infotech channel. Today I will show you the practical examples of event loop and how it works, how the asynchronous works in with JavaScript. So if you didn't watch my previous video, which is I have made with explanations of every components and architecture of event loop, how it works and what are the phases priorities. So please go to that video and watch that first, then come to this video to get the complete understanding of event loop. I will provide you the link in the description of this video and also in the pinned comment. You can get the link from anywhere and watch that video. So starting this video, you can see the left side there is a few lines of code. I am moving into the VS Code editor and show you the output and why the output in the sequence. I will explain you everything. Yes, here you can see the same code which I have shown you. That is I will first executing this code. Yeah, and then I will explain you the why this output of the sequence is coming. So when you execute this file, console.log start print this code, and then it is asynchronous code process.nextTick. So it will register the callback in nextTick queue. Set immediate will call back the registered in check phase. Set timeout will register its callback in timer phase. Then print end. When process.nextTick registered this callback, it started waiting for the completion of the current operation in the call stack. So whenever the current operation of the call stack is finished, this callback will be immediately called before taking any action by the event loop. So it is called after the end next tick. Then event loop checking for callback in the timer phase and timeout is printed. Then there is no callback after the timer phase, and in the check phase there is a immediate callback. One callback, so immediate is called after the timeout. Now if I paste this code inside IO function, then see what will be the output. fs.read file. I am pasting it here, the same code inside IO function. So how many of you can tell me what will be the output? I am executing the same code here inside. If inside IO function, if set immediate and set timeout is there, then always set immediate will be called first. I will explain you why. So before I am executing it, node. Yeah, you can see that here immediate is calling before timeout, and in the first example a timeout called before immediate, but here it is opposite of that. It is because when you called this callback is calling, that time event loop pointer is present in the poll phase, and after this callback execution is completed, the event loop will be look into the check phase for callback, and there is one callback it will find and execute. This is first, then it move to the timer phase and execute this. That's why immediate always called first inside any IO function before timeout. These are the two behaviors of set immediate and set timeout in outside IO function and inside IO function where it is written. Okay, now coming into the second example. In this example I have created one server, and there are more few lines in this code. So I will show you this example with practical and show you the output, and I will explain you why those output is coming. So now moving into the VS Code editor. Here you can see the server code. So when you bootstrap the server, these 3 lines of code will execute immediately because this is outside of this server, and this will execute in the global context. and this callback, this function will be execute when any user send request to the server, and this handler function will be registered in the poll phase and execute this code. This function of code is execute in the function execution context. So first I am starting bootstrapping the server and show you the output. Here you can see the output. The first line of code is one next tick, second one timeout, and third one immediate. When you bootstrapping the server, these all three callback will be registered accordingly in their different phases. So once the call stack is empty, the process.next tick will be fired. So first one next tick will printed there, then event loop move to the timer phase, so one timeout will be printed, then move to the check phase, so one immediate will be printed. Now I will send request to the server parallelly. I will send 7 parallelly requests to the server and show you the different behavior of output. So I have created one more script here. So I have created a function, and inside that function there is a promise to sending request to the server. So here I have declared one variable, that is promise empty array, and pushing all the promises inside a loop, and then calling promise.all to send parallel request to the server. So now I am calling this code in different PowerShell. Node concurrent. I have sent all the requests to the server, so it is continuously executing, and this is taking time because of this loop. I put it here a loop to show you the different behavior of this code. Now from here the console is from the user request. So when user send or parallelly send request, this handler function is registered in poll phase and it is queued, so it executed one by one. In the first request, it prints all of its code from the timeout. This is happened because when this code is executing, it might be happened that all the callbacks were not queued in the poll phase. That's why it prints all the code. After that there are only till 2 next tick here, and in the last all pending callbacks will be printed. So from the second, I am showing you what is the output there. This line is printed here, then set timeout registered it callback, set immediate, and process.next tick. Then synchronous loop is executing, and once loop done, then this line is printed, loop done, then console.log response. And when the current call stack is empty, next tick, which next tick is registered, that is immediately called, and 2 next tick is here. Now moving into the and set immediate and timeout is called because the till now the poll callbacks is not queued till now. That's why immediate and timeout is called. But from the third callback, loop done response and 2 next tick is called, because all the remaining callbacks are queued in poll phase. So next tick is called because whenever the current operation of call stack is empty, next tick will be called, and the event loop pointer is still in the poll phase. That's why it is again start with the next callback, and loop done is printed response to next tick. So till here, from in the last callback, all the poll phase queued is empty. Then it moved to the check phase, and all its remaining check phase callback is executed, and again it moved to the timer phase, and all the timer callback will be executed here. I hope everyone get this point what I am trying to say. Now moving into the third example. In this example, I have written few lines of code, but I will not execute this code because this code is as per my assumption. In this line you can see that assume this takes 95 milliseconds to complete. So I'm assuming that this fs.read file will take 95 milliseconds to read this file, but I'm not sure this will exactly take 95 milliseconds, because my purpose is to show you this code, because I want to tell you that set timeout function with given time threshold will not execute in the same time threshold which I have given in some scenario, which is not confirmed that the time threshold which I have given, that callback will be executed in the same time threshold. So I will explain this line of codes why this is not execute. In the first line I have imported the fs module. Then I have declared one function, some async operation, passing a callback function and calling this fs.read file, which I am assuming that this will take 95 milliseconds. Then it will call this callback. Then after that I have declared one variable timeout scheduled and assigning current date time. Then calling a function set timeout with 100 milliseconds. So suppose that this callback will be this callback should be called in after 100 milliseconds, but in this line of code this callback will not be called after 100 milliseconds. Why will this happen? I will explain you. So I'm calling, then next I'm calling some async operation function which I have declared above here, and passing a callback. This callback I am passing here and do something, and I have declared one another variable start callback inside this callback and assigning current date time. So when this function is called, some async operation, it will start reading this file, which takes 95 milliseconds. This callback set timeout registered this callback in timer phase with this timer is executing in the libUB through libUB library in using system resources. The timer is continuing, and once the timer 100 will be reached this threshold, this callback will be registered in the timer phase here. So it is sent to the libUB API. Then this function will be async function will be called, and this async function will start reading this file, which will take 95 milliseconds. Then after callback will be called. So when 95 milliseconds it takes, and after 5 seconds means 100 milliseconds, this callback will be registered in the timer phase. But after when this callback is called, which I am passing in this some async operation function, that time I am tracking this current date time, and I have created one more operation, that is while loop, which is taking 10 milliseconds. Means in 100 milliseconds this timeout is registered in the timer phase, but the call stack is busy to executing this some async operation function. So till this operation will not complete in call stack, this timeout callback will not get a chance to execute in 100 milliseconds. So so after 95 milliseconds this callback will be called, and it takes more 10 seconds to execute this loop. Once in 105 10 milliseconds it will take to complete this function to execute, and this callback will get a chance after 105 milliseconds, not in 100. This callback is registered in 100 milliseconds in timer queue, but this callback will not execute in 100 milliseconds because this is taking 105 milliseconds to execute, and call stack is busy in executing this operation. That's why this callback will be executing in 105 milliseconds. It means that in node.js server platform, set timeout, you can't say that set time the passing threshold time threshold that callback will be executed in the same threshold, because of this asynchronous architecture in node.js event loop. Okay, now in the next example I will show you with some animation how asynchronous process and event loop working under the hood. So I will show you these lines of code, how with animation, how executing these 3 lines of code with animated event loop. So in this first, an invoked function is added to the call stack. Once it returns a value, it is popped out. When console.log starting node.js, it goes to the call stack, and it after it execution, it popped out from the call stack, and then it get another chance to execute this db.query, and as it is asynchronous code, this will send it to the libUB API. This will send it to the libUB API, and call stack is then empty. Then the third line will get chance to execute here. As you can see, the third line is executing, and the libUB API querying the database is completed and registered its callback in the event queue. It is registering the callback and it is registering in the event queue, and after, when the call stack is empty, event loop picks that callback and put in this call stack and executed it. In this way, the output is starting node.js, then before query result, when this callback will get chance, it execute and print the query executed. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe.